Welcome to the SyFy Sistas live show on Tuesday. What's up, y'all? I'm Sister
Mostly
Tamia.
Tuesday.
Mostly Tuesdays. I'm Sister Tamia. I'm joined today by Sister Yvette,
Hello.
Sister Sabrina,
Whoop, whoop.
and Sister Fran T.
What's happening?
What's happening? As always, dope ass show. We have a woman with us, right? Let's just sum it up. Dope ass show.
I mean,
We have
it is.
it is what it is, right? I got no shame to my game. No false modesty here. Our friend is joining us tonight, and you might know her as Hammerhead from Doom
Excuse
Patrol.
me. Excuse me.
Excuse you.
Excuse me. Can we do
Excuse
the
you?
official sponsor first?
Oh, geez, Louise. I'm so sorry, y'all. I'm like skipping ahead. Yes, the
Oof.
official sponsor. But
You're
you know what?
excited.
You might have to correct me, Yvette, because I don't have my script in front of me. The official sponsor of the live show is Ore Silversmiths. We are so happy and proud that they are the official sponsors, and you should check them out at oresilversmiths.com.
Yep,
Is that correct?
that's
Correct.
correct.
OreSilversmiths.com. They have fantastic silver jewelry that they've created. And what I'm actually not wearing this evening, but I think Sabrina is modeling for us, SyFy Sistas collection of jewelry. So
Woohoo.
thank you. Thank you, Ore Silversmiths. Did I leave anything out, Yvette?
Nope, you go ahead now.
Okay. All right. Now, we're going to get to our guest this evening, who is a dear friend of ours who we just recently met, but she feels like she's one of us and part of the family from 21 Jump Street. Excuse me. Sorry, allergies. So I got a lot of allergies going on today, y'all. So, you might know her from Doom Patrol as Hammerhead, and also you might know her on MacGruber as Bex Dawson, or even China from Dwayne Johnson's comedy Young Rock. But we Star Trek fans know her. I'm
Oh,
so sorry,
Oh,
y'all.
bless.
As Tavine from Star Trek Picard, Lieutenant Tavine, and she is none other than Stephanie Czajkowski. Welcome to the show. And please, did I say it right?
Thanks for having me, sisters.
Yay! Somebody take
So
over.
excited. And anyone who's going to buy those, I believe you had those that jewelry at Star Trek or Trek to Vegas, and I remember touching it. It's very high quality. Everyone should buy some.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
welcome.
that. Yes. I got home
Push
too
the
late to put
perch.
mine on. Forgot to put mine on. But yeah, it's done so well.
I
Right?
rarely take mine off.
Yeah.
I wear it like
Yeah.
all the time. It was such a wonderful gift from Josh. I love it. I love it.
It's really pretty.
You good there, Tamia?
Okay, I think I'm back.
You sure?
Okay, so the first time we met Stephanie in at Star Trek Las Vegas, I had no voice.
Oh, that's
We were
right. Oh my
we were
God.
trying to talk to each other in this loud ass bar, and and I'm like trying to like yell through rasp yell, like, I know it's crazy.
And it was smoke, and it was smoke everywhere too.
Oh, I know.
Right. And now I'm here tonight with like all of us packing up a lung as soon as we get on here. So, okay.
Little memory about his little sense memory happening.
Right.
Whenever Timmy and I talk, she's like, I get what? Yeah.
Every time I see you now, I'm going to be like, oh, shit, there goes my voice.
Pavlovian response.
Wow.
Excuse me. But,
You all right?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm okay. I think I'm okay.
Okay.
We have Stephanie on the show not only because she's a cool, kick-ass woman in so many ways, in the roles that she takes, and just her general vibe. Like, this woman is a really outspoken woman that we've come to really admire, but also to talk about a really important cause that's really near and dear to Stephanie's life, and has touched, I think, all of us here on this podcast personally in one way or the other. And we're talking about breast cancer awareness, and we're talking about, like my hashtag says, Behind a Pink Ribbon. So, Stephanie, can you tell us about Behind a Pink Ribbon and your cause, like how this started for you?
Yeah, I'm like, give me a platform and I will talk now. In 2018 to 2019, I was diagnosed with not one but three types of cancer, and the biggest one being breast cancer, which at the time, 6 months prior to my finding a lump while I was doing a self tape for a television show, or I was like, doing a television show. I have dense breast tissue like many women do. And I'd get my, annual checkups, and I'd had a mammogram in December. And I literally like lifted up my boob and felt this big thing that felt kind of like, I always describe it as like a marble. And it turned out that it ended up being stage 2 invasive lobular breast cancer.
Wow.
So I ended up going, and it was kind of a mixed bag for me because we caught it really early. It just happened to be the time in my life where I was starting to work. So I had union health insurance, and my husband was a writer, and he had insurance. So we had really good insurance. So I was able to just go and see the doctors and get the treatment. And I ended up shaving my head, which is kind of also how I landed in all of these bald roles. So it was really kind of serendipitous. But about a year out, about 2 years out, because I'd gone through this long year of it. And at the time, my husband and I wrote, we turned it into a blog because I had just come off, like I said, I had thyroid cancer, and like literally on the heels of it, the Thursday before my surgery, the Saturday before my surgery was on Thursday, I found this breast cancer. And then it was like cancer. Like I got on this train that was like, what is happening? And at the time, I didn't have the bandwidth to hide it from anyone. And I knew a lot of people, and I had a friend who had gone through cancer and created a Facebook page to just keep everybody updated. And so I started blogging. We did a blog called Chemo Skinny, and I wrote my entries, and then he wrote entries that kind of corresponded with mine, and just to kind of place where we were, but also to just give people an idea so we didn't have to keep repeating stories.
Right.
And then 2020 happened, and we were outside of it, and we actually, were out of it officially for about a year. And COVID, because it stopped everything, gave us an opportunity to actually contemplate what we had been through, because we always think about like, oh, they always are like, you're going to battle cancer and it's going to be over. And then once that part's over, you don't realize that then you have to deal with you deal with the emotion of it. I always talk about it as like you're just trying to get out of a burning building, and you don't contemplate what the experience of being in a burning building was until you're out of it, right? So then we ended up doing a podcast, and so this is and then not long after that, I started, I think it was in 2020, I did the first one, or 2021, I myself did, because I talked about it a lot and I was really open about it. I found that and we put this podcast out there, I found that people would reach out to me and ask me advice, or I had women at the gym I work at who didn't tell anybody they had cancer, but would come and talk to me. So I became just, I guess, a safer harbor to talk to somebody, to be someone who people could talk to. And what I found in talking to all these siblings, I call them like my breast cancer siblings, is that we all have really shared experience, but also very unique experience just based on who we are. And so I myself, for a month, I every day put up a video of like, when you lose your hair, you lose all your hair. Just like little things that you didn't know. Like when you lose your hair, you lose all your hair. And it's kind of cool in certain respects, but you lose it all.
Right.
And there's things that we don't really talk
All
about,
of
right?
it.
These are things that when breast cancer comes up, they're like, touch your boobs. But they don't tell you like, oh, post surgery, it's all about making sure you have meds to make sure you poop right. Otherwise, like, because they give you these painkillers, like it's dumb stuff like that I was talking about that people seem to really want to know. So this year, I wanted to open it up more. Like, not that I don't like being the star of the show, but I've met so many women they say it's 1 in 8 women will get cancer. And I was like, oh, I'm 1 of 8. But now I'm in a place where um, I know I have so many friends and colleagues. And as I get older, people who are going through the same thing. And I felt like if they were open to it, I wanted to take the 31 days and see if we could get somebody to do a video, and then I would share it so that we could kind of expand it a little bit more. Because I feel like with women's health in general, we don't talk about it. We don't talk about because
Mhm.
we've been conditioned and socialized to just suck it up, to just suck up pain. And then in turn, when you go to doctors, a lot of times they don't take you seriously. And that's exponentially higher for women of color. Like it's in terms of outcomes for breast cancer and things like that, that I think we need to have bigger conversations about it. And I figured that this was a good way to start trying to do that on a level that didn't feel all corporate-y, you know? That was really long. I'm so sorry.
No.
No, that's
No, it
you
was
don't have
not.
to.
Yeah.
Don't rush through that. That we,
Mm-mm.
there's so much information out there, and everybody is affected by breast cancer somewhere, somehow. It could be just a coworker, but
Yeah.
you still are affected by it. I was and I wasn't affected when I had my second child. While I was pregnant, I thought I had breast cancer, and there was a lump. And of course,
Yeah.
I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
So they had to take the lump out. It wasn't cancerous, but they still had to take it out. And because I was pregnant, it had to be a local.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
and every time I go to the doctor, I have to talk about it because they ask me, like, wait a minute, you had a lumpectomy? What happened? And I'm like,
Right.
just like you said, do I have to tell the story again?
Yeah.
I know I didn't have cancer, but still, it was scary because I knew all the horror stories of breast cancer. And this was 1999. So
Yeah.
back then it was just horrible. Everybody was dying. Nobody was
Yeah.
surviving. So
Yeah.
Right.
So please tell these stories. Let us know what the little things are, because it's scary. Breast cancer is scary. I don't care how much you know. The minute someone says something's wrong with your breasts, I know I freak out inside,
Yeah.
because we all probably grew up in a time where this wasn't survivable,
Right.
but I've been doing more research. I'm glad to see that, a lot of things are changing. But unfortunately for Black women, a lot of things are staying the same.
Yeah.
I love how you started this story about this journey, like not that was talking about that your breasts were naturally fibrous anyway, and there's a lot of us that have that, and people, like, we don't talk about it, and that's something that, like, mine are too. And there's things that, to the point where my doctors are like, you cannot have caffeine, and you cannot have chocolate, because, like, it just makes us think you are riddled with cancer every
Yeah.
time. Like, we
Yeah.
don't know, like, you have got to keep, because and then and how that feels, and you don't know if it's like, because you feel like there's a rock in your breast,
Mm-hmm.
and then the breast becomes heavy. Like, people that think, like, oh, my breasts grew, like, why are my breasts growing larger? Like, because it's not natural. There's something inside of it that's growing and making it look larger. And it's hard as a rock, and it hurts, and it, like, I can't hug people.
Yeah.
You can't, like, it's really painful. And then they don't know every time that it happens, like, okay, what's going on with the breast now?
Yeah.
And I think that that's just something that that's another part of this conversation that people don't have. I'm really happy that you said that.
Yeah. Well, I think to that point, we're doing mammograms and sometimes you're getting ultrasounds, but I'm like, bringing it into sci-fi, like, we have the technology
Oof. Yes,
to
we
Right.
go.
do.
I mean, I have, and I usually post it every October. I have a picture of the mammogram, like, because I'm a super nerd and I always go get, like, I get my CDs and then I make pictures. But I have a picture of what the 2 mammograms look like. My first one that showed nothing, and the other one showed nothing, versus the MRI that showed that there was a giant lump in
Yes.
my breast.
Yes.
And I'm
Right.
kind of like, they don't give MRIs. They don't do these screenings, which technology is getting better. So I'm kind of like, how are we not doing that? Like, how are we not devising a system or devising an ultrasound or devising something specifically for women, so that they can see what is going on? Because it seems to be like, I think it comes into reproductive care too. It like ties into everything we're talking about right now about how we minimize how women's healthcare gets minimized, and specific, and in particularly in underserved communities, even more so.
Right.
It's just.
I just wanted to make sure people understand. I know you said something about ultrasound. So I have dense breasts. So I always, and because of that incident, I always have to get a sonogram, the mammogram and the sonogram. And I probably would not have gotten that sonogram if I didn't have that incident happen, because until now, they never gave you the sonogram. Like, they wouldn't tell you have dense breasts unless something happened. So now the FDA has mandated that everyone, that their doctor is supposed to tell you that you have dense breast. It is mandated. So when you go for your next mammogram, if they don't tell you, make sure you ask, because this is very important. Mammograms do not show everything.
No.
And from my research, it's like half the U.S. population of women have dense breasts.
Oh yeah.
That's
Wow.
So a lot of us.
It's a lot of us,
Right.
and most people don't even know what that means. They've never even heard the term. They've been going for mammograms forever.
I will admit that, because I've heard the term, but I didn't know that it was making you take the second test, and that's really crazy, because so many people, they put off the mammogram because it's painful. And they just don't want to do it. You have people saying like, "Oh my God, I got to go through this again," and it's just a horrible test.
It is horrible.
I'm just saying, like, if I'm
They could
sorry.
come up with something else.
I was diagnosed years ago. My sisters, I have two sisters, they were also diagnosed, and they called it back then SyFy Cystic breast. I had cyst in my breast.
Right. That's what they said that I have.
Breast. And then they came up with, you have dense breast. Me and both of my sisters do. And in the last 10 years, I've had to go back 3 times because, until they got the MRI, the ultrasound one.
The ultrasound.
Yeah, the ultrasound one. I've had to go back 3 times and get a biopsy, seriously. And I've even gotten they put the little tag, and they put the little tag in there.
The worst.
And and that's something. It's a little chip thing they put in there to make sure that So I went back like maybe 3 years after that, and they said they saw something. I said, "Are you sure this is the little chip y'all put in years ago?" It was like, "No, it's in a different."
Yeah.
It's actually in a different, because they know where that little chip is, So it's been kind of off, because I get it done my birthday month, which happens to be October.
Happy birthday month.
Are you
Scorpio or Libra?
She's a Libra.
I am a Libra.
I'm a Scorpio.
Full Libra.
She's a full Libra.
October Libra.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's been scary, guys. I mean, I shouldn't say guys, but it's been scary. Anytime they call you and say, you need to come back and we need to do this and do. So I've had like 3 biopsies in the last 10 years because they think they see something. Thank goodness it never came anything, but it's kind of scary.
It is.
It is
very.
And I just have to say that, like, if they had tests where a man had to put his penis between these metal plates and get it squeezed and
change that a long time
ago, that shit would last about 2 seconds. Like,
knowing them would be something they had to put their penis into.
But we have to like lift our breast onto a thing and hold on to a thing, and then they put this vice
I
over
know.
top
They just,
of your breast and squeeze down. I'm describing this for all the men who have no idea what goes on in a mammogram. This is what
Yeah,
happens.
it's
We have
not an
to put our
X-ray.
arm
Well, it
up,
is, but it's not.
and if you are like me and you don't have particularly large breasts, you're like trying to squeeze the little thing up there, and then they flatten it like a pancake
I
between these
know.
two vices, and it's ridiculous, and more than
That's
that,
women's health for you.
it's extremely
That it
extremely
is.
Like,
painful.
yeah,
Try
who
having
designed
big,
this?
try
It's
having
so
big boobs,
painful.
and you see that, and you see
It's
that
just
I'm
big,
as
just saying,
bad
like I'm
your boob
bruised
is
every
flat, this flat.
time.
every time because
Every
they got
time
it's like a
I'm bruised
dance.
because they're trying to
It's
push
like a
me on
dance.
there.
Like, no,
Right,
go this way in,
Yeah,
put
right.
Yep.
your hand this way, put
right.
your left
Hold your
hand this
breath.
way.
The titty
Now
bite
take
is
a breath.
about to
Hold
come
it.
on.
Hold it. Don't
Hold it. Don't move.
Don't breathe.
Don't breathe.
Don't breathe. Hold.
Just
Oh,
because
hold
then
on.
they'll call you. Then they call you back. Oh,
I mean,
do it
I'm
again.
telling
we
you,
missed something.
every time I get a mammogram, I'm crying by the
Yeah.
end. And it's like, it's so medieval, it's just torture. It's really medieval.
Yeah.
So make sure
You
you
know,
do
because
one. It's
So make sure
awful. Please make
it's
sure you do it.
it's
Yeah.
awful, but
you
make
know,
sure you do it.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Definitely
That's
do
like
it.
women's health. Men are complaining now about, when they have their prostate exams, what they do and everything. And we were like, okay, for how long have we been put your feet in the stirrups and slide down
Yeah.
to the end of the
See?
table?
It's true,
Mhm.
Jamal.
Then
It's
you
true.
know how it
Yeah.
feels.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
You get one little poop, one little poke. Like,
Yeah.
relax,
Little poke.
calm
And
down.
we're talking about men, but I do want to bring up that men should also
Yes.
Yes.
do checks, just like we do checks in the shower.
Mhm.
Men should be doing that also, because just like Jamal said, men might have something and they just don't bother.
Right.
How many of us have
Which is-
partners, brothers, fathers who just don't go to the doctor, don't get annual checkups? But men just realize breast cancer can happen to you also.
Yes.
Richard
So
Roundtree
please,
had.
right, Richard, I
Mhm.
remember that. I
Richard,
remember that. So please do your screenings. Please do your checks in the shower like we do,
Mhm.
because we laugh and everything about we definitely love you guys. So please do that check also, and because you are basically most of the time the caregivers for your partners or your mothers or your sisters or your aunts. So
Which
we
is
want
its
you to
own
be
really hard thing.
yeah
Mhm.
caregivers. Shout out to the caregivers out there.
Yeah.
Right.
It's,
Oh, man.
And I
yeah.
think that
So-
to that point of people not going to the doctor, it's easier. We tend to, Google it and get really scared about it. And granted, like depending upon insurance coverage or money comes into play, but it's always a case of, the one thing I always say is the sooner you know what it is, the sooner you know, because you don't know until you know.
Right.
And
Mhm.
also the earlier you catch it,
Yeah.
the less expensive it's going to be, the less bad it's going to be. Like the more you
Mhm.
you kick it down the road, the more likely it's going to be a bigger issue, potentially if it is something.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. So
yes, it is.
Stephanie, yeah, no, it is like so you started telling people what it was like.
Yeah.
You started dropping these little factoids, and then people were responding and it
Mhm.
grew. So now what? You've opened it up. You want to hear from other people, right?
Yeah. I just wanted to, and there's still room. So if anyone wants to contribute, because as you all know, getting a podcast together, sometimes it's like, it's kind of like herding cats, because people are like, I want to, and then people have things going on. And I just thought it
Mhm.
would be interesting and nicer to start to hear from different perspectives, because I also realized that in the breast cancer world, in lots of worlds, like people want to go out and do things and they're like, I'm going to start my own charity or whatever. And we sometimes forget about how building coalitions is so important. And I think one of the
Mhm.
things I've learned from John Billingsley and Tractivism is the idea that the more of us involved in it, the further it can go, the more good we can do,
Agreed. Yep.
And so to get other perspectives of, I have women who are breast cancer survivors, and, I myself, technically, I call myself a long hauler because I had my first incidents, and then right after Picard, I had a recurrence. I found a recurrence in July of 2022. And because I'm a super nerd that's sciencey, we caught it super early. So it did not spread. There was like, basically it was a change of medication. And now I get, I go every month for a shot, and then every 4 to 5, or now it's 5 to 6 months for PET scan. Like, so I'm monitored, but had I let it go, it could have potentially gone far. So it's me, but it's also people who've had it before. It's, Kitty Swink, who is part of who raises money for prostate cancer, who also
Prostate
does
cancer.
Yeah, and it's younger women of color. My friend Samantha. So it's just trying to specifically just find people with different perspectives, because I am highly aware of, like, I have my own opinion of it, but I also know that, like, I'm a middle class white lady who had really good health insurance, and that I have a perspective on it, but also we need to talk about all of the things that go along with it. Like, I was really lucky I had insurance, because, I have stories of people who don't have health insurance who get divorced from their sibling or from their spouses so they can go on Medicaid so that they can have the coverage they need because they can't afford it. There's so many aspects that people aren't aware of. And I feel like the more we shed light on them, when someone gets diagnosed, it becomes a little less scary, maybe. I mean, the word cancer will never not be scary, but also, when we were talking about, when Yvette was talking about 1999, like 1999 versus now is a huge difference, because it was not fully a death sentence, but it was close. Like, you got cancer and you're done. Like that.
Well, in our community, it was.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And now you are, my doctor's like, oh, you'll live way past me, which seems crazy. Like, breast cancer is going to be, it's my chronic condition, which is absolutely insane.
Right.
But also is important to note, because there are different flavors of breast cancer and all of those things. So because I have one flavor and I know this aspect of it, different drugs affect people differently. So basically, to me, it's trying to get more voices, really, just different experiences, because there's a commonality there, but also, I was really lucky. My doctors worked with me. They don't mind that I'm a pain in the ass. Like, but other doctors, like, I had a kidney doctor who's like, who I actually like, because I had kidney cancer too, because I wanted to be an overachiever, like, whatever, it's fine. Like, in the same, like, 3, but who was like, I will fix your kidney. Most people would, like, throw the kidney in a bucket, like, who just kind of a little bit of God complex.
Wow.
He's great at what he does, so that's good. But we often forget, and I think generationally this is true. We treat doctors like they're gods, and they know more than us because they've studied. But we need to be assertive partners, because the one thing we know better is our vessel. The one thing we know better is our body. Then, we know our bodies, and we need to trust, especially women need to trust that we know our bodies.
And just don't, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And listen to it.
And don't take no for an answer. I had a doctor tell me this is just the way it is, and I was like, well, that's the wrong answer. I mean, that is the wrong thing, and I had enough. Talking about menopause, and I just heard something like Gen X refuses to deal with menopause the way their parents did. I'm not doing that. I'm not dealing with this. This is not for me. These hot flashes, they're not for me. I don't want any more. Stop.
They're terrible, but also why in a culture that seemingly, as we keep learning, is real focused on us just being baby makers. You can't have babies, then you're worthless, so it doesn't matter. It's like, but wait a minute, yo. Like,
I'm still here and I'm living past you.
Live a life that is full and complete and happy and sexually active. Just like,
Why be miserable? Don't be miserable. I tell every woman I see, do not be miserable. No. It's not necessary. They have drugs that can take care of this. Go find out about them. Talk to your doctor. Get a doctor who will talk to you about it, because you have to find the stuff that works for you, because it's not one size fits all. So you must find doctors, and any of your doctors, your dentist, your doctor, they're not gods. They went to school, they work for you, and they need to be your partner in your healthcare. I'm going through healthcare issues, it seems like every single day. So I'm so lucky, like you said, Steph, I'm so lucky that I have a group of doctors who are listening to me because I know what's going on in my body. Nothing, if you look at me, nothing's wrong, but I'm telling them what's wrong, and they're working with me, and we're finding out things that, we would have never known, so please talk to your doctors. They should be your partners in your
Well, and that's
healthcare.
the thing. It's like
Yeah.
they want to be. You want people. I mean, in your life too,
Mhm.
to be curious, like
Yeah.
to, as opposed to be like, no, that's just not it. It's like be like, oh, okay, and you are the partner in that, because when I had my diagnosis, my mom died of a very rare blood cancer. That was coupled with my multiple myeloma, and when I had my recurrence, the thing that popped up was what that could cause it was either there was 5 things: breast cancer, kidney cancer, yes, thyroid cancer, yes, prostate cancer, no. So I'd had 3 of the 5, and then multiple myeloma, which my mother had. And I remember telling my doctor, well, I was terrified because I was like, could this be multiple myeloma? And he was like, no, no. He's like, no. And I'm like, he's like, well, that'd be another cancer. And I'm like, and like, I've
Right.
had 3 of 4.
I just told you I had 3 of
And
them.
I've said this to my doctors over and over and over again. And now they test me. They do a test every so often when they're doing my blood panel to keep an eye out for like elevated proteins, because this thing happened, and it turned out it was breast cancer. But it's being your own, or writing it down, and like it's so important to, I feel like, take on big doctor appointments, take someone with you who can be calm and cool and can ask questions, because no matter how strong we think we are, you cannot both manage your own diagnosis and the potential of death,
Right.
and ask good questions and then remember everything. You just
But
can't.
and that's the thing. Like, I think for like all this, even if it's not like a life-threatening diagnosis, like, if it's a big appointment, one of the things that I've learned that's most important is for those appointments to have somebody else with me, and also and have them take notes. And I usually bring a notebook, or we record, and I ask the doctors to spell things, and we make sure that like we take as good notes as possible, because in the moment you might feel like you're understanding everything, and then you get home and you're like, what did they say?
Right.
How did they say it, and what does that mean?
Yeah. Because the
They're
adrenaline,
reacting,
right. And then you get home and like, wait, what just happened?
Right.
You know?
Wait, I'm supposed to have surgery now, right? Is that what you said? I'm having surgery?
Yeah.
That's a big deal,
Or you have a bunch of questions and you forget, like, if like going in, like writing down questions, and
Before you
having them
wow,
ready
that's a
to
good idea.
ask, so and also I always find when my mom, I was not the primary caregiver, but I was really involved in my mom's diagnosis, because I basically would go to the doctor, and like that became my thing of knowing exactly what she had and what she was, because she again just was like, it'll go away, and that's
right.
not really, in my estimation, the best way to deal with things. I'm of the mind that I'm like, I just want to know. I want to know all of it, because then I know what I'm fighting. It's hard to fight something that is amorphous, but being able to ask those questions, being involved in and asking like relationship questions, like on a scale of 1 to 10, what is blah blah blah, on a scale, or percentages of like, if I do this, does it work? What percentage of the time? Like, what are we talking here? Because sometimes it feels like we'll go in and there'll be like big swaths of, this is what you should do, and you're like, oh, I absolutely have to do that. I'm like, but do you?
Right.
Being able to take a step back and give yourself a frame of reference to be like, to know if you have to do it, if it's an absolute done deal, or if there are options there. Because I feel like a lot of times we feel like we go in and it's like, no, this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
Stephanie, how, I'm hearing a couple of things, what Fran said and what you said, and it sounds like knowing your family history is also something that's very important, like knowing the other women in your life.
Yes.
And I know my best friend Carol had 2 bouts with breast cancer, and we didn't think she was going to make it. It was back in those days when she was one of the few people that made it through the first round. And her sister, her mother, her aunt, they had the gene.
Yeah.
And apparently, the sister actually had her breast removed in order to prevent coming down with cancer. I mean, it's preventive surgery. So she knew her family history, but I heard Fran say sisters. I heard you say mother. I heard, I mean, I think it's kind of something that people need to be aware. And I know some people maybe can't find what their family history is, but if you can, and you are aware, you need to maybe ask questions when you get to the doctor, because you may have more of a chance. Do you think that's something that's true, or?
I think so. I mean, when I went, one of the things that happened, especially because I got, so many like right on top of each other, as soon as the second one came, they sent me for DNA testing. And, they asked for my family history, and I knew my mom's condition because I lived through it, right? I was right there with the doctor having those conversations, and I knew my dad's side of the family kind of, but by the time this happened, both my parents were dead. They had died really early. And so the only people left to ask about my family history is I have one parent left. She will be 97 in October, and comes from a generation that's like, well, no, who doesn't about their health? Who's like, or is like, oh, well, she had cancer.
Right.
Right.
Somehow, like, and even my having cancer, somehow the rest of my family kind of is like, oh, well, that you have that. Somehow, as if our genetics are not,
The
connected.
same. I'm
Right.
part of you.
So I went through it, and I knew a little bit, and literally, I think it was 6 months later, I was in Palm Springs, and I had a phone call from my mom's first cousin, because my grandfather was one of 13, and everybody, and all of his siblings had like 4 kids. So my mom had like 125 first cousins. And she called, and she's like, can I get your DNA results? And I'm like, yeah, I guess. And she's like, I was like, well, we don't really have a family history of cancer. She's like, well, actually, she's like, yes, we do. And starts listing all of my great aunts and my, like, how blood cancer runs in the family. Like, when my mom had this rare blood cancer, like when we first discovered it, when it represented, it turned out her first cousin had the exact same kind. Like, so there's like a lot of genes there. Being like, hey, yo.
Somebody could have told me.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's because it's genetics, like it's the genetic code, but then you add to it environmental stuff, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So like then that can trigger it as well. So it's just it's a crazy body we live in. It's crazy
I know.
miraculous body.
It's a crazy environment we live in.
That is very true.
My maternal grandmother died when I was 16. And she, back then, I was 16 a long time ago. They didn't tell you anything.
Shut up, Fran.
That was a long time ago. I was 16 a long time ago. And I went to the hospital to see her. And you know what she said? She told me, I said, well, Grandma, what's wrong? And she said, well, I just got a little bit of fluid. I'll be all right. They just got some fluid on my whatever, I'm like, oh, okay. So I took her word for it. Okay. I took her word for it. I found out years later that my grandmother died from non-Hodgkin's
lymphoma.
Lymphoma. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what my grandmother died of in her 50s. In late 50s.
Oh boy.
And I had no idea until way later on that this is what killed her, because she just had a little bit of fluid.
I remember that term. A little bit of fluid. A little bit of fluid.
Like a little bit of sugar.
It's a little bit of sugar. Same thing. I just got a little bit of sugar.
Next thing you know, the amputation, you don't know what's going on. Like, what the?
Yeah. Well, that's good. But isn't that also just the care? There's a caretaking aspect to that. Is the not wanting I learned that with my mom. I think this is the other reason I talked about it and talked about like all the aspects of it is my mother bright lighted it. You know, a lot of people feel the need to bright light and not they don't want to make other people feel bad, or they don't want, it is such a hard thing to be a caretaker because of someone you love when you know you have no control and there's nothing you can do. And the flip side of that is, you know, people will enter into when find out you have cancer, and if you tell people, they got a whole lot of opinions. Everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got an opinion. And so you don't realize that you're managing their opinions because their opinions come from whatever they've been through.
Right.
And that's how they're coming to you. And I remember being like, you just have to remember that the reason people are talking to you, they're giving you advice that, you know, and they're telling you what to do is because they love you and they care about you. And they don't know how to just hold space. We're real bad at just holding space. And what we in turn do as patients, and I think specifically as women, is we try to make everyone know it's going to be okay. So we tell them there's a little bit of water. You know, we just want everything to be okay for other people because we don't want to be the cause of their sorrow.
Yeah. Right. No, we don't want to be a burden.
Right. No, we don't. Yeah.
I definitely feel that.
So I'm interested to know, how can people actually, like, if people want to participate, like if they want to like post a little video, like what exactly are you looking for people to like, what should they expect, like as far as participation, and how can they do it?
Basically, I just had people send videos directly to me just because I'm trying to put them up in one place. And it's a minute video. It's just like cell phone. It doesn't have to be pretty. It's literally just like, hi, my name is Stephanie. I am a cancer long hauler. I had stage 2. You know, you can decide to tell how much. Like, I had stage 2. I like saying, I call it the flavor, because I feel like we also lump breast cancer together. So, you know, whenever someone dies of breast cancer, I'm like, what kind? Like, part of me wants to know that, because, you know, you like, if it's just cancer killing everybody, then I'm going to die.
There's so many different cancers.
And basically, like, my first one today was literally like, you know, it was like, and you know, a thing I wish someone would have told me is that when you lose your hair, you lose all your hair. Like, it's just that simple. It can be a couple of things. It's just kind of paying forward one of the things that, you know, you learned going through, you know, walking the journey, that you kind of wish someone would have told you that you just didn't know. So it's not a strict, like, it must be like this or it must be like that. And I've had people I put it up on my social media, had people email me, you know, DM me, and then I just send them my email and I have them send me the video, because I'm just trying to keep them all in one place. So if someone wanted to go back and watch them all, they could go, you know, to my Instagram feed and see them all. And at the end of each week, I'm going to take them in. We have a website. I'm like,
web series.
A website. We have a website that houses the blog and our podcast, and I have a page that's going to be that. So every week I intend on just putting them up so you can see one, two, like you can go through.
Okay.
Cool.
You know? Cool. I'll put it in the description for everyone to send their videos to your DMs on your on all your socials, any social.
Yeah, pretty much any social.
Okay.
It's, I'm trying to think if it's easier. Facebook is kind of easier to get DMs off of. TikTok, you can't actually pull them out. Like, that's the one thing I've learned is I'm like, oh, I need to send you an email. And literally the email to send it is chemoskinny@gmail.com. Like, I kept it really easy. They could just send it, or, you know, hit me up. But I would, you know, I think the more the merrier. I'm like, I think we have.
It's .com or .org?
.com. Or chemoskinny@gmail.com.
At gmail.com.
Yeah, just at Gmail.
I love when we were talking about this before, like, I just love the idea of it. I wish that, you know, I'm so glad that you're taking the initiative to try to assemble these different voices around it. You know, I remember one of my dear friends had a really aggressive form of breast cancer when we were very young. I mean, like in our 30s, and she lost her breast then, and just everything that she was going through, just, it was just so, I mean, I was not prepared as a friend at that time to really know how to help her, right? How to take
Mhm.
care of her. I just sort of let her guide me as to let me know, like, this is what I need.
Yeah.
But it was very overwhelming at that
Mm.
age to like to go. I was like, I feel so lost. I
Yeah.
feel like I don't know what to do to help my friend. Um, and then, we found ways to help her and get her to doctor's appointments or whatever, like blah, blah, blah,
Sure.
different ways. But it was so much to watch her go through reconstructive surgery well, the
Mhm.
decision of whether or not to have reconstructive surgery, you know,
Yeah.
um, and all the changes that happened in her life that were irreparable since that. And and like I said, it was a very nasty form of cancer. Like a lot of times, you think about cancer and you think internal, right?
Mhm.
This one was literally eating through on her skin,
Oh
and
no.
you could see, I mean, it was a really virulent, horrible. And that's why, like, I saw somebody in the chat was like, well, I'm going to go through for my mammogram soon.
Yeah.
But I say, like, go through as soon as you can, because I mean,
Yeah.
we were only like, I might have been 31 or 30
Mhm.
or something when this was happening.
Yeah, that's why you gotta do that test, your
Yeah.
self exam, because they
Yeah.
don't let
Yeah,
you have these. They don't even talk about screening until you're 40,
Yeah.
Right.
and then you
exactly.
don't get to do the mammogram until you're 45.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So you got to do your self exams,
Right.
men and
Right.
women,
Yeah.
because unfortunately, younger women, because they're not getting screened,
They're not
Yeah.
going to.
are getting
Mm-hmm.
cancer more.
Yeah.
You know.
That's what happened to my best friend Carol. That's
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
she had we had all just gotten married, and she already had two boys. But I
Mhm.
remember, she was so tired and had lost all the hair, and we were taking the boys. I think they were like 4 and 2,
Mhm.
and I had to
Oof.
go on the
Wow.
vacation with her because she said, "Sub, if you just come,
Mhm.
and then you can play with the boys." So because I just don't have the energy
Yeah.
to be with them and run around that summer. And her husband and I, we were trying to keep the boys occupied and not tire her out. But it
Mhm.
was
Mm-hmm.
just one of the longest weeks. Just we didn't know if she was going to make it, what was going to happen. I mean, it was just, and we were, in our 30s. We were in our
Yeah.
30s.
Yeah.
And yeah, no test had happened yet, but she
Mm-mm.
was the one that came from that family that had
Yeah.
cancer riddled through her,
Okay.
the prior generation. But that didn't key any tests for her back in those days. I think
Mhm.
Right.
now if you tell people that, they may screen you earlier, but
Yeah.
it
Right.
didn't happen
Well,
back then.
and also the chemo hasn't gotten better. They pregame you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Like you have like a day of that was the thing that I didn't expect. Like
Mm.
they in order for you to be able to tolerate the chemo, like 2 days before they give you steroids. My house was never so clean. My house was never so clean. Like, and I was still teaching fitness classes because I was a pretty I was a good healthy person. But like I would go and I would teach because I was so like I was so aggro. And they give you steroids first, and then before, if you're doing it intravenously, then they'll give you Benadryl. So in case you have an
Oh.
allergic reaction, they give you both like a Benadryl and more steroids, and then you do your infusion. And
Mm-hmm.
then I think it's steroids the day after to keep your red blood cells up.
Mhm.
And then like a couple days after, you get this thing. They now make them almost like they have for type 2 diabetes.
A
Neulasta.
patch.
It was
Mm-hmm.
the brand name is Neulasta, but it was like this little thing that automatically starts shooting. It's a white blood cell booster, and so which actually,
Wow.
and so it starts boosting your white blood cells in your bone marrow, and then you should take Claritin because your they start to expand, and so you kind of like you get bone aches and stuff. Like I always felt
Wow.
pretty okay until the Neulasta hit, and I always knew that like day 5 it was going to be a real shit show. Like, and you
Wow.
start to know those things. But I was going to say like, um, can't chemo, and then it progressively
Mm-hmm.
gets worse. But also this is all this pre-gaming has happened because of your friend, because initially they didn't figure out how to kind of make it easy, more tolerable in the system. So it was just even worse.
Mm-hmm.
Now so I also noticed that people are surviving more because there's more, like you said, there's more medicine.
Yes.
But then that brings on the fact that there's so many people without insurance.
Yeah.
Right.
And people who have been saved from cancer, or they got the cancer, now they can't afford the meds.
Yes.
There's like this cycle. So go ahead.
I was gonna like there's so this is the thing that I learned, and it's not it is most places, and
Okay.
it's if you get to a point where you can't afford your meds, in most cancer centers there are people who are there to help you find money,
Good to
to
know.
find grants, to like there's a lot of helpers, and a lot of
Good.
helpers that a lot of people just don't know about.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But
Good,
one
good,
of the
good
things
to
that
know.
I found out when because I was on tamoxifen initially, which is terrible.
Mhm.
Like it's awful, has some pretty bad side effects. It's like it's like just like super menopause right away. It's awesome.
Ah.
Oh,
I was like,
God.
I know. I was like, ugh. But I'm like, but I'm not
Yikes.
dying.
Right. Right.
So then it didn't work. But I ended up on a drug from Eli Lilly, and I remember they put me on this new medication. I get shots every month, but then I have to take a pill daily. These 2 pills. And I called CVS, and the lady was very nice on the other end. And they're like, "You have to call CVS specialty." I'm like, "Great." And she was like, "So even with your really good insurance, it's going to be $4,000 a month."
What?
And I literally was like, "No, dude." Like I literally was like,
Well, that
"No."
ain't happening.
I was like, "No, not doing it. Not doing."
Yeah.
And there was a beat, and she went, "And if you can't afford it, they have a savings card." And I was like, yeah." So
You should
they-
have led with that, sis.
right?
Right.
I mean, it was like
Right.
comical. So
Oh my
she's
goodness.
like, they have this savings card. So yet another loophole in the way our system works. For very expensive chemotherapy and sometimes other drugs, pharmaceutical companies have their own non-for-profit.
Mhm.
And the non-for-profit is designed that patients who cannot afford their medication can go and get one of their savings cards. You call, you sign up. It's very easy. And then that savings card is given to CVS specialty or whatever. And in my case, this $4,000 a month drug is covered completely
Mm.
Completely.
for up
Wow.
to, it was at first up to $52,000, I guess. So because and then then they changed how much it would only do up to like 36,000, and then you can call back for additional 8 or something.
Yes.
Like it's
so
this
ridiculous.
weird. It's
It's crazy.
it is pharmaceutical companies' ways of writing off
Yes.
taxes.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
called the CVS lady back, and I was like, "Why don't they just make it cheaper?" And she's like, "I don't know."
Yeah.
She said, "I don't
Yeah.
know." She's like, "My sister is living in Norway with her husband or Sweden. They paid for everything." She's like, and my husband's on the like sitting there while I'm talking to her, and why I haven't gotten the drugs yet. We're like, just like, why are these things so expensive? And she was like, "Here's the thing, like, there are drugs that are like $20,000, and we will call people, and I will tell them there is a savings card, and they will be like, 'No, I don't
Right.
take charity.'"
I don't take
And I'm
charity.
like,
Yep. I've heard that.
pardon my language, fuck that noise.
Right.
Right.
Because
Right.
they shouldn't be that expensive. Like it's there is no reason for it to be that prohibitively expensive if
Exactly.
you can turn around and write it off your bottom line.
Right.
Thank
could
you.
turn around and make
Especially
it
if you're going to
cheaper.
do that.
Well, it's the reason is why, just what you said, there are people who will pay it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
will pay it. It's
And
the
they're
same
just there
thing
being
with
like, "Oh, I'm taking assistance." I'm like, "Yeah, and that's what
And-
it's there for."
and
you
that's
know?
yeah, exactly. So now you're not going to take your medicine,
Yeah.
and
Or
it's
you're
just, I think
going to
all
like, insulin, you're gonna spread it out because you can't afford it.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
I mean, I feel like
Yep.
so and when it comes to those specialty drugs, I feel like everyone should just know, like, call the insurance company. There's
Yes.
a level of there's a level of busybody Karen that everyone needs to adopt when dealing with
You better.
bureaucracy.
Yeah,
You
you're right.
better.
Like
Yeah.
You're right.
the
Yep.
better you are at dealing with bureaucracy,
Mhm.
the more you will get what you want.
Yes.
The more you will
Mhm.
What
actually
you
like,
Squeak the
need.
because what
wheel.
ends up happening is people just get tired as they like, because no
Mhm.
one wants to deal
Yeah.
with having to go through the signing of the this and then filling out the
Wow.
form and they know that.
They
Right.
They
do.
know that.
They do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, and certain, you know, different healthcare centers have those people who are just really good at it. Like,
Yeah.
and they really know how to work that system that just seems so stupid,
Yeah.
Right.
you know,
It's
There's
because
crazy.
yet
it's
another.
something you have to learn, but
Yeah.
it's true. It's kind of true with all the things.
Yeah, all the medicines when they
Yeah.
went up on I have to walk around with an EpiPen, and they
Oh my
went
God,
up
yeah.
my
I'm so glad that guy's in
now
jail.
so one day, you know, every year you have to get a new EpiPen because they don't last. So
Yeah.
one day I go to, and thank God I have Sam's, I go to Sam's pharmaceutical pharmacy. I go there, they told me my EpiPen is gonna cost me $800.
Yeah.
I was like,
Oh,
did you go through my insurance?
Boy.
They were
Right.
like, yes. And I was like, wait, what? And then they said, you need to get online, start Googling, because this
Yeah.
was a while ago. Now they have all these other things, the XR card or whatever.
Yeah.
Back
Right.
then I had to go through the company. I'm thinking it was, I can't remember, Pfizer? Was it Pfizer or something?
It could have been Pfizer, yeah.
Yeah, so I had to go through them to get the discount. Unfortunately, it didn't pay for all of it, but I had to
Wow.
get it. I mean, bees are, you know, I'm allergic to bees. There's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
You know, so,
Well, and that
but
was
now at least it's not that bad. It's still high. The
Yeah.
EpiPens are still very high compared to what they were when I was a kid, which was absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Well, it's
they
that guy.
were-
It's that dude, that Martin Scully guy who like who
Yeah.
jacked up the price,
Yep,
and then you have a bunch of these tech bro billionaire
Yeah.
jerks
Yep.
Yeah.
who have been doing this since. I mean, because if you look back historically at healthcare, like it wasn't a for-profit business.
Right.
You know what I
used to
mean?
not- right.
It wasn't a for-profit business.
Uh-huh.
And then suddenly, was it, I don't know if it was Reagan, like I don't know the history of it, but it was like kind of Reagan, where like
Yeah.
suddenly pharmaceuticals could be
Yep.
like directly sold to you, or they could
Mhm.
advertise on television. And like,
Advertise.
Yes,
That's
you
what
can
it was. It
advertise.
was the
Yeah.
advertisements. Yep.
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
And it's, my
Yep.
husband is Canadian, and what's crazy, yes, the simple answer is greed,
Mhm.
LJGBT, yes. But, you know, it's one of those things that I'm so happy to see, you know, the Biden administration
Yeah,
doing. They
that's
just
what it
announced their
was.
45 medications
Mhm. Yep.
that have been capped,
Right.
you know, and
And insulin
you know,
is
with-
one of them.
Yep.
what?
Mhm.
Insulin.
Insulin's been
Insulin,
capped.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
Mhm.
mostly for seniors, but they're trying to do it for everybody. But you know,
Right.
we got a bunch of jackals in the House of Representatives who like to be like, it's so high, and then get a bill to like make a change and then don't. You know?
And then don't.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. You know, there's a lot of them whose hands are in those pockets, you know,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
Yeah.
you know, and we all know how it works, you know, the special interest money
Yeah.
is
For
really what
profit medical.
makes a lot of laws in this country, you
Yeah.
know,
I was
unfortunately.
looking at, I can't remember the documentary I was looking at, but it was talking about European, some country, and I don't want to name the country because I can't remember.
Yeah.
But they was talking about, you know, comparing their healthcare against our healthcare.
Mhm.
And what amazed me, which was a little thing, was they paid them to come. They said, how much was your gas to get here? How much did it cost for you to come to this doctor's appointment?
Yeah.
And they reimburse people to go. You know, I'm like, oh my gosh, they actually paying for the gas or or however they got there. You know, plus they didn't have to pay for the medic. You know, but they paid for their transportation to the doctor's appointment.
Yeah. It
Socialist.
just seemed to me because I know there's
Really,
these
right.
billionaires making all
There's
this
that
money off of
word.
these drugs.
What'd you say, Stephanie?
I said, it's so
Sorry.
weird to me because I know there's like all these people making money off these drugs, but the idea of, you know, socialized healthcare is a conservative idea because it is cheaper to keep people healthy. Like
It is.
cheaper. It is literally like
Yeah.
like Mitt Romney was the one who was like, that's what, like, you know, the
Mhm.
Affordable
Right.
not even the Affordable Care Act, but when like in the 90s that, when the Clintons when they were trying to started going to get socialized healthcare.
Right.
Yeah.
But it just
Cheaper.
it's cheaper. It's just more, streamlined. It's just there is no. I do not understand
Right.
how we live in what's supposed to be the richest country in the world, and our healthcare is so abysmal. Like
Right.
Well, here it is.
it's really good
This is the
healthcare, it's really
reason.
good.
Well, this is the reason.
Yeah.
Once Nixon and Reagan let people pharmaceuticals advertise, and they realized they can make money.
Yeah.
That's where it all started.
Yeah.
Because now it was just a new stream of income that people had that they didn't have the opportunity to have before. And now, I always say this: we would have, if it wasn't a profit, we would have cured cancer years ago.
Yeah.
If it wasn't profit, there would, obesity, there would be no obesity, because we want to keep people fat and obese because then they get sick. So it's a cycle.
There's a great
they got
article.
meds out for that now. What I don't know the name of them, but they were supposed to be diabetic meds. Was it diabetes?
Ozempic?
Ozempic, Wegovy, all that.
Yeah.
Now you can just go and get a prescription.
This is so true. Just here.
And lose weight with meds.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's an article, I don't remember where it was, at the Atlantic, but there's literally a Republican in South Carolina, actually, who runs this state healthcare, and was talking about, there's a story. If someone Googles, there's a story called "How a $5 Drug Could Bankrupt American Healthcare Companies," and it's about the making of Ozempic, and how it literally costs $5 to make by Novo Nordisk, and how you buy it in it's made in I think Norway, and it's they may charge $50 for it or whatever, but when you get it here, it's $1,500.
Yep.
But they're finding it has all these benefits. It's type 2 diabetes. It's losing weight, so that then brings away all those other secondary potential issues. But the guy pushing to try to get the cost control of this is a Republican guy from South Carolina, because he's the guy in charge. I think that's it. But literally, if you Google how $5 drug could bankrupt American whatever, it'll come up somewhere.
But here's the thing, people there's a lot more working across the aisle than what the media portrays. And I'm here to tell you guys, I live in DC. My life has been politics. My family is involved in this stuff. We know how you cannot believe the hype that you see out there on the mainstream media. It is not all polarized like us over here. I mean, now it's worse than it's ever been. But it's a lot. Mitt Romney, he was always hanging out at the different restaurants and stuff downtown, and hanging with the Democrats. People they hang together.
Yep.
They work together. They're buddy, and then on TV they'll be oh, but this and that, because they have a population base most of the time that is very ignorant of how politics actually works. Right. And this is on both sides, they just don't know how politics actually works. But you have, on a lot of different issues, very strange bedfellows. Right. Seemingly strange bedfellows. And my work is in cannabis and in medical cannabis here in DC, and we have, I don't know what that noise is. We have a lot of Republican allies to legalize medical cannabis. A ton. They want to make money off of this thing too. But people don't realize. So I'm just saying, there's a lot. It doesn't always surprise me to find that, we're trying to get legislation passed and you don't think it's coming from somebody that you would think that it's coming from, or you think you get opposition to a piece of legislation that you think is going to fly, that you wouldn't expect from your home team.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like it's because the more you know, 24-hour news cycles, you have to fill it with something. And then you want it to be dramatic so people
Yeah.
will
Oh,
watch.
yeah.
And now you
Well,
have the
they,
internet
they
as
repeat
well.
every
And so now
15 minutes.
everything is just for, you know, clicks.
Yeah.
And you know, we're all old enough. I mean, we're barely out of our 40s, into our 40s, but you know,
That's right.
I mean, you know, yeah, I'm
Speak
I'm
for
just 29,
yourself.
but like, I come from a time, you know, I come from a time where like it's weird to talk to you know, a kid who's Gen Z to be like, no, politics wasn't always like this. Like literally, like people would hang out together and they were arguing about kind of doing the same thing. They just had a different methodology on how to get there,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
as
Yeah.
opposed to feeling
But the
like we're literally
goal
just we've taken that away. Yeah.
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 Well, I think that well, no, I think I want to thank you for coming on and talking so openly with us, you know, about this, you know, because I think that you're amazing, you know. I mean, I really did, like, I really girl crushed on you so hard when I first met
No,
you. Like, it was just like,
you.
I was like, this
Like,
bitch
girl
is
crushing you
dope,
guys too.
man.
Mutual admiration society.
There you go.
It's so cool. Like, you know, and I mean, just for our friend Ed to be like, yeah, so you know, that character Tavine, like my friend Stephanie plays her. Do you want to meet her? Yeah, yeah. Yes, I do. And you know, and you know, just like you've done so many other things in your career, I'm just going to lighten it up a little bit. I'm just going to change us to other stuff. You know, we know you as Tavine, but when I saw you as Tavine, I kept going, wow, I know her face. Like I know who this woman is, and I couldn't figure the out. And then I realized it was Hammerhead,
Okay. Yeah.
in Doom Patrol.
Yeah.
Like that's a Hammerhead is crazy, man. How much
Yeah.
fun you have playing playing Hammerhead?
I had so much fun. That was the gig I booked while I was like going through breast cancer. Like I had just did chemo, like, and the day I found out I had kidney cancer was the day I booked that role, and I was like, yes. It was, but it also just it was on location, so I was in Atlanta, and I got to hang out in Atlanta, and one of my best friends, Kevin Wilson, who I've known from high school, I hadn't seen forever. I got to see it was that job in and of itself was filled with so much love around it. And then the diving into that aspect of someone's personality was really, really delicious. You know, I
was wondering.
Yeah, I love a good time. I always love when I get to drop an F-bomb. Like I'm real good at it.
Yeah,
real good at it. It's a special skill. No,
It's a great word.
It is a special skill. Let me tell
really
you,
is.
not everybody can drop an F-bomb and drop it with some impact. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
Gotta have
good
some
drop.
style for that.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I think Hammerhead in particular is I love, and it seems to be kind of my ballywick-ish. I've always played like physically strong women because I am physically strong. And this one, you know, was very much about how people deal with their anger. And I think it would be very easy to just be like, I'm angry and I'm just mad, as opposed to really understanding. I mean, she's an aspect of Jane's personality, but anger comes from, you know, fear and from being afraid of, you know, from care of Jane and Kay. And so I love the idea of just diving into the fact that anger may present, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's the root of it. You know?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I've learned that somewhat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, it's real hard though sometimes, man. Like, you know, it's real hard when other people are just coming at you with your. It's hard to sometimes deflect that because we got
Right.
a lot of angry people in the world.
Oof.
It's a ton of anger.
A lot of people angry, and there's a joy a little bit for people to just be angry and to, like, you know, you see it in trolling, and but that doesn't last. It's not as sustainable as hope and love.
It's
You know,
something
It really.
that's behind the anger. The anger is just a symptom.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
result
I was
in.
just I was just saying that the other night. The joy and love that you were talking about, the sustainable. Well, it was when we had our hype show for the women of Star Trek.
Yes. Oh my God, I saw that.
I know that's so right. And we were just talking about that, which is coming up in 2 days, y'all. Just 2 days.
Yay!
2
2 days.
more sleeps.
2
2
and 2.
more sleeps.
So excited.
But
So excited.
I'm a firm believer in the fact that love and joy will always outpace the anger and the violence eventually. Yeah.
Well, I think sometimes people, when you say that, because I think it's true, I think sometimes people will take the idea of what love is and minimize it, thinking that, well, it's all just like happy. I'm like,
Right.
sometimes love looks like an angry mama bear, and you
It
need to
sure
get out of the
does.
way.
Mhm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
love takes a lot of different forms, man. Like
That's
That's
right.
right.
it's not out to hurt someone, but it is out.
Mhm.
The protection comes deep into that,
That's
So,
right. That's right.
and you fight,
And
you fight for things that you believe in and love.
Yeah.
And sometimes anger is positive. And I say that because Black folks got angry in the 50s and the 60s. And
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Needed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
Anger can
definitely.
be a
that
great
came
motivator.
from being, that came from being, dehumanized and humiliated and
Yeah.
all that stuff, and just sick of the shit. So,
Yeah.
Mhm.
okay, wait a minute. All right.
Yeah.
Malcolm said, by any means necessary. So,
Ain't nobody seen us angry yet.
For real, they've seen the full
there are
anger.
some.
Yeah.
They think we were docile and all. No. You don't tell those other stories about what anger will do for people to get them where they need to be.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But they know they
100%
need to
correct.
be. So
Yeah.
sometimes it works.
Well, I tell you what, like in 2 days on October 3rd, we're gonna be a little bit angry, a little bit happy, a little bit very, very active for the
Yeah.
women of Trek, for women
Very
of Star Trek
determined.
event.
Yep.
Very
Yeah.
determined. We're going to use all of it to try to motivate everybody. I hope everybody signs up for that and joins us on October 3rd. And if you don't know about it, we have the links on our YouTube channel. We have the links
Yeah.
on our Instagram. We have the
Yeah.
links on the X accounts. We have the links everywhere.
Everywhere.
Mhm.
Stacey's
Everywhere.
gonna be there. I'm
Stacey
just
and
like,
Cory Booker. Like,
I'm just, yeah. They keep announcing it, and when Kitty asked me to be part, they're like, "Do you want to be part of it?" I'm like, I was like, I get to be part of it.
Oh,
Well, there
I
is,
get-
there is a thing of like, I played Tavine, but I mean,
Yes.
Tavine is not a giant role. Like people noticed it, and that was great. And what I've realized, like,
Wait. Okay. Let's stop. Let's stop right here.
Right there.
Stop right here.
yes,
sorry.
I'm not.
So
Go ahead,
this
break it down,
is
sister.
Star Trek. Okay. So there is no minor role. You
No.
get on Star Trek, you are part of Star Trek family. I mean,
I
there are
bridge,
people
and on the
who have
bridge.
one line,
I know.
and they have been at every Star Trek convention there is.
Well,
You
and
were on
but
the
that is the
bridge.
thing that I did not realize was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was so lucky to be on the show. I was so lucky to be on that bridge, to be with those people, to like kind of, I felt like, ooh, all the big kids are here and I get to be part of this. And it's Picard. It's not gonna be, it's not, it's Picard. And so you
Thank
do
you,
your
Jamal.
part on it.
That's it.
And but the
That's
heavy
it.
lifting is done by everyone else. So you get to enjoy it. And then when it comes out, you get to meet all these amazing people like you in the fandom and a fandom that is literally pushing and is completely like authentically activating their cast, their crew, their fans to realize Gene Roddenberry's vision of infinite diversity and infinite combinations. Like it's I'm like, part of me is like, I've had other jobs that have been like, I've been on set longer or whatever, but like nothing that has been as life-changing as this. Nothing that has been. And so yes, to a degree, I'm like, you want to include me? Oh my God, yes. Like, because you're so thrilled to be there.
Yeah.
And every interaction I have And here's the thing, and all you have to do is say yes,
Right?
and it's been such a wonderful, wonderful fandom to be a part of, Anyway.
Yeah. Well, we
And-
know
and
we
may I
Make it
say
better.
without
You make
being-
it better.
And may I say, without being condescending or sexist, but you were one sexy ball pointed ear.
yes,
Hey,
yes,
hey,
yes, yes,
hey,
yes,
hey.
yes,
Oh,
yes.
yeah, chick ear.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
I just keep being like, who's gonna pay me to shave my head again? Who's gonna shave my head again?
Hopefully Star Trek.
I
Yeah.
know, right?
That's
Come on, man. When
right. You
Sky
can
gets
always
to
come.
work
You
with-
can always come back.
Yeah,
That's
no,
right.
I
Come
mean,
back.
there's a number of ways, right? There's a
Oh.
whole folder of things.
You could be
Somebody
somebody
really-
totally different.
Right.
I mean, we
Somebody
have
totally
actors who
different.
I
make
do wanna
entire
be- I do-
careers.
I do want to, like, people are like, what would you be? And I'm like, I would definitely be a Klingon. I'm like, can I
Oh,
be
yeah.
related to Michael?
Ooh, yeah.
Oh yes. Oh,
My dad
yeah,
had a
and you're-
huge crush on Michael Dorn.
Yes.
Oh hells yeah.
Oh,
Who-
yeah.
It's hard not to have a crush on Michael Dorn.
He's
It
so
really is.
wonderful.
Who doesn't have a crush on Michael?
in makeup or out of makeup. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It's
well,
the voice. It's the voice.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Deep Space Nine,
Yeah.
Worf.
Yeah,
Deep Space
DS9
he's
Morph
so-
now.
yes,
DS9 Morph.
Sexy as shit.
Not that.
And Picard Worf.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Worf was
Oh,
sexy.
oh,
Yeah.
Picard
Oh,
was
Daddy
like
Worf?
that.
Come on.
He's
Yeah,
good.
Daddy Worf.
Oh, my God.
That's right. Daddy Worf was.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, okay.
Me
When
and
they
I,
had-
did I tell you when we were yelling at each other? I don't even remember. I used to sell stuff on eBay. I actually still do. And I brought my dad to a Goodwill outlet, and we
Uh-huh.
found this vest because my dad was like 6'3", like 250 pounds. And we ended up finding in the bins one of Michael's old jackets.
Shut
It
up.
was an Armani Exchange, like, tan linen jacket. And I like made him try it on because, like, literally this guy was like, he's from the Midwest. His wardrobe was legit.
Sorry.
Flame tropical shirts, like
Uh,
flame Hawaiian shirts and jorts.
Oh my
like that was
God.
his
That
look
was his wardrobe.
when it wasn't good. So I made him buy this shirt. We didn't know it was, his. He tried it on, it fit him, and it had some stains. And I was like, this is the nicest piece of clothing you would ever own. If we can get the stains out, great. It's only going to cost you like $2.
Right.
I'm like, and if we can't get them out, we give it back. And we get home, and he pulls out this piece of paper, which is an audition appointment for Michael. And he's like, oh my God, this is Warp's jacket. This is Warp's jacket. So he was single at the time, and we got the stains out, and he used to go on dates. He used to go on dates on Match.com,
No
and he'd
way.
wear the jacket. And he'd be like, you know Michael Dorn, Worf, from Star Trek? This was his jacket. Like, for like all over the place. Like, I
really hope that worked for him.
I think it was a good way to weed people out. Like,
Right.
he wore
It
it
either worked or
everywhere.
it didn't. You
And
know?
so, like,
He wore it
if
They were
everywhere.
not of the body.
That's
They
so
were
funny.
gone.
Right.
If we didn't know who
Yeah, when
Worf was.
he passed away, we thought about, like, there were only certain things we kept, but
Right.
we have the work jacket. So
Of
when I
course
saw
you do.
Michael, I actually told him the story, and he was like, "You got a picture?" I'm like, "Yeah," and I was like, I showed it to him, and he was just like, "I remember that jacket. That was a good jacket. I was a bigger guy then." And I was like, "Well, we got the stain out if you ever want it back."
Staying out. Did you watch Star Trek with your dad?
I did.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
did.
yeah,
He
Aw.
Yeah.
original series. He used to watch
Oh,
it while he
okay.
was doing his. He went to night school for college,
Uh-huh.
and he'd do his homework on weekends. So we would watch it with him right before Hogan's Heroes.
Yes.
And
Oh my
then,
God.
The
Yes.
first movie I went to in the movie theater was Star Trek the movie.
Was it?
Oh,
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's so
Yeah, it was
special.
threaded throughout my life in this really weird way that, like, I watched Next Gen, but I didn't like. I've watched them much more. Like, it's funny because, like, I was a fan, but then I became much more of a fan when I joined the like officially.
Yeah. We hear that a
But
lot. Yeah.
it's so funny because, like, my mom was a seamstress and costume designer,
Mhm.
and I worked at a party shop, and when The Voyage Home came out, she was making cosplay outfits, and we went to this, like, special opening, and everyone's like, "Oh, they're Trekkies," when it wasn't cool to cosplay.
Right. When it wasn't cool. Right.
When it went, yeah, and I was just like, okay. But it was so crazy because, like, every time a new movie come out, every time, like, I've always watched it, and part of
Mhm.
it's like, I don't know why.
Right.
It's like, I'm like, why do I do this? I'm like, oh, because it's part of what I was like, it was part of my DNA growing up. That and James Bond. Like
Yep.
Star Trek and James
Mhm.
Bond. Like that's,
Yep.
you know.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah,
Yep.
when I stepped
It is.
foot on that
Oh,
when I sat down at that chair and I sat
Oh
on
my
that
God.
bridge,
Yes.
I was like, it's just
Just like that, right?
yeah, it's
They should just
little
make a Trekkie
fully
dating
surreal,
site
and then
just
like
save us all.
look over at, you know, Patrick Stewart and be like, I'm gonna talk to you now. Like, hold your cool, like, you know, just being in college and being like, oh my God, Patrick Stewart, oh
Oh
my
my
God,
God.
and then actually being like with them and trying to like just be cool.
Are you looking at me, Fran? I thought Fran was looking at me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to be cool.
Trying to
Like,
be cool. Nah.
It's cool, man.
I'm a big fan of someone, and I tried, and I know I'm
Of
not going to be
someone.
cold, so I just walked away. I was like, nope.
Walks away.
I walked away.
But that's
Couldn't
okay
handle
because
it.
every time I talk to Michelle
Exit.
Hurd, I still get tongue
Yeah.
tied. Every
Yep.
single time we
Every
talk to Michelle Hurd,
Yep.
and I'm like a blithering idiot. I'm like, I know how to open. I'm like, I was listening to the show the other day, and I was like, I didn't even know what to call the woman. I was like, she's just the best.
She's
hot.
so
She's
damn
hot.
cool.
She's
so
another
Yeah, she hot.
chick.
She is
Yeah,
hot.
she's hot.
Yeah.
She's hot as hell. Like
Yep.
that's what I see. This is one thing that's going to be like the women of Trek, the women of Star Trek
Oh,
thing
it's gonna
for
be.
Oh
Kamala.
my God,
For
right?
Kamala, it's just going to be this like hot parade, like because
Yes.
everybody on there is fucking gorgeous, and I'm like,
Yes.
I'm so in love with all of them. Like,
All of them.
Terry Farrell. I like just I
Ugh.
mean,
oh my
Oh
God,
my
everyone
God.
is just everyone is stunning in their own way, and also
Yep.
they just
right?
have this energy that's just phenomenal. Like
Yeah.
it's just yeah.
It's definitely the energy.
Yeah.
You know, the
Yeah,
energy that
good
they
energy.
bring, that good, joyful, hopeful energy. And even
Yeah.
before all of this, even
Mhm.
before Kamala, this is what
Oh
we
yeah.
got. I know what we got out of a lot of times interviewing them. It's just like the energy, the joy. They were always I was never surprised when Kitty sent me this and said, this is what we want to do. It didn't surprise me
Mhm.
because I was like, well, they've been doing this forever.
Yeah.
You know, this is what Star Trek does, you know.
Yeah.
So it was really cool. It really was. It really was. I
Yeah.
can't wait for Thursday. I'm
I know.
excited and scared to death.
Yes.
You know,
All in one.
Hoping
I'm
we
like,
can
what's
keep
the
it
script?
together.
What do I have to say? There's a
Mhm.
lot of us. What do I have to do?
Right. I
Yeah,
guess
What do I have
yeah.
to
yeah.
do? Can you tell me
Yeah.
what to do?
It's all we're getting everything together. So
Yeah.
hopefully everybody will join us
Yeah.
on Thursday, October 3rd. I cannot believe it's October already.
I know.
October 3rd,
Yes, isn't it?
8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time. I think I
Yeah.
got that right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
5:30.
Crusher
5:30.
Convo. Like if you can't join us live, just make sure you guys hit the link and watch it again and donate.
Yeah, because
You
it's going to
know,
be on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
There's gonna be
So
yeah,
you
there'll
should
be
be able to
YouTube
watch
links.
it again. Yeah.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
yeah,
So
there's been a lot of stuff that I've been trying to get. Like there's other groups I've joined in on that
right.
I'm like, I just gotta go to the YouTube link. I'll just donate
That's
money
it.
for YouTube.
Mhm.
That's it.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
yeah. I
Thanks.
feel
And
like I feel like super jazzed about it too. And I just think that like Star Trek has this way of attracting all this positivity, because of our philosophies, and like so we're blessed to be around really amazing people from like in front of the camera, behind the camera, and in the fandom. It's just an amazing community.
Yeah. Every time I come to or especially every time I go to a convention, like specifically a Trek convention, because I've now been to two. I've only been to two, actually. So I've
Really?
only been to two. The two I've been to. I always end up meeting, like, I always super geek out because I'm like, oh my God, you're an astrophysicist. Like, oh my God, you're so much smarter than me. Like, every so often, I'm just like, I'm just an actor. Like, look at this shit you're doing. Like, it's so,
Right?
it's this weird mutual, like, it's this great mutual, like, oh
Yeah.
my God, you do that? That's so amazing. Like,
Mhm.
Mhm.
our fandom
Yeah.
is like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to say our fandom is better than other fandoms.
It really
All,
is.
all
It
the
is.
time, every
All
day,
the time.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. All the time.
Mhm.
It-
I don't want to fight.
this is the way.
Best fandom ever.
Right.
This
And
is
we
the
know
way.
it, and we'll never let any of the rest of them forget it either.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
stand on this hill, man. I will
That's
die
it.
on
I
this
will
hill.
die
That's-
on this
that's
hill.
hill.
Die
That's
on
it.
this damn hill. Like, we have the
Kick
best
your
fandom in
ass
the
on
world.
this hill.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Fighting words. Okay, now we're supposed to be peaceful folks now. Come on.
Yeah.
Are
No?
we? Are we really?
But you know
Well,
what? You know,
I
but
mean-
you know, we started out. Well, at least me and Sabrina started out because we was pissed about stuff.
Yeah.
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 We were
Mhm.
pissed.
Yeah,
So
I get
it's
that.
a long story. I won't get into it.
That's right, because we're about to wind up this show.
That's
then
right.
It's on
Yeah,
over
we gotta
for an
Please
hour
don't
and a
get
half
into
I want to
already.
hear it. Some of the next time. I want to hear
Not
it.
me.
You want to hear
Next
it?
time you're gonna hear it.
Not
After
on this
we-
one, a different one.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Exactly.
'Cause I'm here
Well,
for
yep.
it. I'm here.
We're ready.
Stephanie, thank you so much for coming on the show. And like, I can't wait to have you on the show again. We'll just make up a reason and just have you come back like, and just
Exactly.
chill and talk. And you guys like out there, please don't forget Behind a Pink Ribbon. And if you know somebody, send them Stephanie's way. If you are a survivor or long hauler or somebody, like, go ahead. And if you want to share your story, please check out Behind a Pink Ribbon, check out Stephanie's socials, and we will have all of those links for you guys as well. Right, Yvette?
Right. Everything's in the description of this show. And please don't forget to get subscribed so you get notified, because tomorrow we're doing Sin Goes Sci-Fi, and we're doing the incredible scary, even though it's a black and white, right?
Yep.
Them creepy
Ooh.
crawlies. Creepy
It's
crawlies.
fierce.
With David
Yes, yes.
Gerald. So
with the legend David Gerald.
David Gerald. And
Yeah.
Sabrina is going to be holding it down. Our Sin. She's amazing. And that show is amazing. So I hope you guys join us tomorrow night for that
It's gonna
at
be fun.
9:30
Now,
Eastern time.
I'm gonna be trying to like hold it together. And, like,
Exactly.
I'm
I have to
enamored of
I admit
David.
that I've never seen that movie ever.
I didn't
Oh,
see it
you
until she put it out there. I was like, okay, now I
One
gotta
of my
watch it.
favorites. One of my
Maybe I'll
favorites.
have to go try to watch it. Them,
Oh,
y'all.
Big
Them.
bugs, yeah.
Ugh, I hate bugs. All right, guys, we're gonna get out of here before
All
we
right,
keep
yeah.
going on.
I-
All right,
Yeah, okay.
I
gotta
love
go
you
home.
all. All right, peace, love, and hair grease, fans.